A couple of days after coming back from the IPMS, I came across a video on YouTube where the presenter was talking about all of the fantastic models that he had seen, the paint jobs, the techniques, etc., and how he felt like in his own modeling he was kind of an imposter. I suppose it's because he wasn't living up to the standards being set in the showroom. The real curious thing about that was he wound up actually placing with a couple of models in the overall competition. And so my thought now is if he was feeling like an imposter, man, what am I doing? And I suppose the truth is I'm building models because it's fun. I enjoy it, and it's a nice break from the rest of my week. I do have a problem with these models because I build them, and very frequently I don't paint them. I don't paint them because like he was saying, I mean, when you look at the standards that are out there on YouTube and at the modeling conventions, etc., I know my skills aren't up to task. So a little while ago, I went to a local modeling convention. And while I was there, I decided, you know what, I'm actually going to paint one and finish one, my very first one. And this is a video about that model. So here it is, an old Revell Monogram Battlestar Galactica Cylon Raider. It's an old kit, and as an old kit, I'm sure it has many problems that maybe have been rectified by some of the newer kits that have come out. But I found this at the modeling convention that I went to in July, and I just had to have it. I left the section in here where I actually unboxed the video. I guess some people are into watching them. I know I do on occasion. But there's nothing sort of terribly special about this model kit, mostly because there's really only a handful of pieces associated with it. And so the actual build was pretty straightforward, except for, well, the very, very old decals and the very, very poor fit for a number of the sections as they came together. The instructions were fairly straightforward, nothing terribly surprising about them. Again, it's a fairly uncomplicated build. And it's a little confusing here in the build exactly what the colors should be. We know they should be gray of some sort, and so I did my best to actually figure out what an appropriate sort of gray would be, and then I went with one that I liked the look of. So, ultimately the build is not going to wind up being, show ready. Or at least not screen ready. But it's a fun kit, and it's a sort of a simple build. Now there are a number of aftermarket parts that I could have gotten. For example, there's some engine detail, resin detail that if I had known about before I actually glued all this up, maybe I would have gone ahead and purchased those. There is another build video out there that I'll try to link in the down below that actually does a really nice job of actually going through the kind of modifications that he made. The one thing that I did plan on doing at this point, though, was attempting to light it in some way just to give it a little bit of kind of visual appeal. Not that it's going to go anywhere other than just on my shelf at my office, but nevertheless. The sprues were okay, nothing sort of surprising. There was a little bit of flashing here and there, but overall they were in fairly good shape, I suppose. Again, there's only a handful of parts, so there wasn't just a whole lot to do here other than glue a couple of engine bits into various places. You'll notice that what I did for the engines was I actually attempted to light block that section using a piece of kind of vellum to diffuse a little bit the glare that was going to come out once the blue lights were actually in there to represent the engine. The decals just weren't usable for the most part. As soon as you put them in water, they began to fragment, and so I had to paint. And I did my best job that I could painting. I'm a novice at this, and so I'm not going to say that it is a perfect paint job, but it was my first attempt actually using an airbrush. So I had a lot of fun doing it. It took a little bit of time to sort of mask off exactly where and how I wanted them to be. I learned something about overspray. I got just a little bit, not too much, but I did my best to actually mimic how those decals should have fit across the wings of this Raider. Now, the hardest part, of course, to actually paint were the curves. And I did that by using the original decals as a mask for actually doing the airbrushing. And overall, it turned out okay. You can see a little bit of kind of error here and there as I kind of learn how to do the masking associated with a model. But, to be honest, I'm actually pretty pleased with how this actually turned out. I was able to get one of the pentagon-shaped decals on, but the other one just completely came apart. And I tried a couple of times to actually sort of create a new one without a whole lot of luck. And so I decided to come up with a story instead. This Cylon Raider was getting hit by a meteor at exactly the point where it would cover up that decal. So I built a stand that's using a rock from down at the lake near our house. And then I brought a couple of rocks back to the house, broke them up so that they would look a little bit fragmented, and here's the end result. Overall, not a show winner. I'm sure there are lots of problems with it in the paint and in the detail, etc. But I like it, and that's really kind of the point of this video, is I'm modeling for fun, not to win competitions. Now, would it be nice to win a competition? Sure. And as my skills develop, maybe I'll enter more. I did actually enter this one into the IPMS. That was kind of the deal I made with myself. I was going to complete a model and enter it. I didn't win, but I did have fun.